believe we're here. My name's Joel Magalnick, and I am a member of the Creative Hive. I'm excited to be with you today. And what I'm going to be talking about in our special session this morning is in particular for teachers. I want to introduce my crew member here, Oscar. Say hi.
Hi, how's it
Great,
going?
thank you. All right, so this is intended for teachers this morning, and in particular because teachers are in a position now where they need to be learning how to move their classes online. This is a brand new thing for so many of you. And so I've put together a video series that I've posted online on my website for teachers to be able to do this, but I wanted to do just a quick run through so anybody who's teaching, trying to figure this out, can actually get started if you have no idea where to begin from. So a little bit about myself, just to get started. Like I said, I'm a member of the Creative Hive. I show up there a few times a week and try to be an active part of that community, which is great. It's a lot of fun to be able to see all the people, although it's been pretty lonely lately, unfortunately. But among the number of things I do, I create podcasts for companies. I do a lot of digital media work and digital communications, but I also teach a class in digital communications remotely for a college down in Washington State where I used to live. And so I've created some level of expertise in actually teaching online remotely. So as teachers need to move online, I wanted to share that knowledge that I've got for you. So teachers, in particular at the high school, middle school, and college level, this is for you. If you teach elementary, hopefully there are some things in here that you would be able to take and be able to transfer into the classes that you're teaching as well for more of all-day student type of environments. So I'm not going to touch on it too much, but some of the things that we should be thinking about as we're doing this is accessibility for students, for example, who might be hard of hearing or sight impaired. As we're talking about things like video and audio, we should also be thinking about ways that could be alternates to that delivery. So it could be in creating transcripts or having transcripts created for you so the students are able to read along if they need to as you're presenting, or have some sort of audio component, which, even if you're doing a video, that you're able to talk through, or there's a program that's able to talk through the things that you're presenting so the students can get all the information that they need that you're teaching. And I understand this is quick and on the fly for you, especially if you're needing to create new videos or new presentations every single day. It might be a little bit challenging, but just some things to think about. So when we're talking about classroom delivery online, there are two methods to think about. So there's synchronous, meaning that is happening at that time, and asynchronous, which means that you are creating your content earlier, maybe a pre-recording, and then having it available for delivery at any given time that you would want. So an example of synchronous would be using Zoom, or which everybody is talking about these days, having Zoom meetings, Zoom coffees, Zoom happy hours. Microsoft Teams works very much in the same way, that you can have multiple people on a video stream at the same time. So if we're talking about using either of those, if we're talking about pros, you don't have to pre-record anything. It all happens in real time. If you want to have live discussions with your students, you could have everybody in the classroom and you can see everybody there. And a student would be free to either type in a question or get on and ask a question. And you could answer that, have live discussions in real time. And also if you have any presentations that you've created before the class, like in PowerPoint, or pictures you want to show, anything like that, you can use Zoom for screen sharing. Second, or actually the cons for that are, it's not going to be quite as polished. Like I have this area of my room that I plop down in and I'm doing that, but oftentimes if you're doing a Zoom call, you're sitting in front of your laptop. So all they're going to see is an extreme close-up like this, and it might not look quite as good. You can see the bags under my eyes. So it might not be quite as polished, but you're doing this every day. Your students hopefully know you, and therefore maybe that doesn't matter quite as much. But if you were wanting to integrate slides throughout the production of each day's class, it's a little bit harder to do because you're trying to speak into the camera, but also you're trying to bring this thing in over here, that thing in over there. The screen sharing can help to replace for that, but it is something if you've got other resources that might be a little bit more challenging. And your students also need to be available at the time you're delivering the class. You can record it so it's available later if you want to, but it is an issue that if your students are working on a different schedule than you, and particularly at the college level that might be the case, then that's going to be a little bit more of a challenge. So let's move on to asynchronous. And so asynchronous is pre-recording, so that can be in the form of video, it can be in the form of audio, so like a quote-unquote podcast. It could be taking PowerPoint and recording over the PowerPoint videos. So the pros to that, you can be more polished, you can spend a little bit of time each day editing your videos, and that is a way that you can also include like PowerPoints or slide overlays, images, so that when you're in your editing suite, which I'll talk about that in a few moments. So when you're doing that editing, that is a way that you can just plop that image on, or maybe some other video on there as well. You can use it, you can record it now, you can save it for later, has that availability, so students, whenever they need to be on at a different time, maybe some of them are actually working right now, or they need to be dealing with family, anything like that, they can watch that later and it's available for them. If you want to share the videos with other teachers, perhaps if you're doing some collaborations with other teachers or colleagues, then having that pre-recorded video is an excellent way for you to be able to share content between different classes. And if you've got a packaged video that you've uploaded to like YouTube, for example, and you're working with a learning management system, or you've got a blog that you're putting all of your class materials on, then it's a much easier to have just that link from YouTube that you can embed onto your LMS or your blog really easily. So some of the cons of doing the pre-recording like this is it can be time consuming. So you're spending the time compiling all the materials. I'm sure that because you are so well versed at teaching and you've got your curricula memorized, you understand pretty much what you're going to say, it's a lot easier to get that part done. But also, because you're not in front of a room of students, you're standing in front of a camera, at first you might be a little bit nervous, and therefore you might do some takes and then some retakes. You might feel like you're not getting quite the dynamic, the dynamacy, I guess you would say, of the classroom and that energy that you have being in front of your students. So it takes a little bit of time to get used to that. But over time, it gets a lot easier, and that becomes much more rote or memory or muscle memory for you. So as well, it does require a video editor, and the good news about that is that whether you're working on a Mac or PC, the video editor is built in and they're relatively simple to use, thankfully, but it does take time to go from actually doing the recording feed into your camera to the output of making sure that what you're presenting, and if you're chopping things out or integrating any other videos or any of the slides or anything like that onto your video, then it does take time. And the first time you might take like 4 times the amount of time as it would to just deliver it right there live. So consideration. And then you don't get that immediate feedback or discussion time that you would by being in a live class and having all of the students there with you. But again, you're working on your own schedule that accommodates for their schedule. So let's talk about some of the gear needed. So the first thing you need is a digital camera. Unfortunately, I didn't bring my digital camera to this presentation. It's away in a closet right now, but let's pretend that I am holding my digital camera here. Usually they are locked away in a closet somewhere, so hopefully you have one. Just make sure that it is able to record video. You should have a laptop. I can't show you that. Got a laptop right here. Mine's got that little apple on it. Yours can have those 4 squares of the windows. Doesn't matter. Doesn't even have to be a laptop. It can be a desktop as well. But you just want to be able to have that computer there so you can use the built-in editing suite. In order for things to be steady, and again, this is for asynchronous. If you're doing this early, have a tripod, and that's what keeps your video from shaking, from looking shaky. It keeps people involved a little bit more because their eyes aren't getting tired from watching you shake all the time. And those are really cheap. All of these options that I'm giving you here are cheap or free because I want this to, we're not looking for the Academy Award winning class. We're looking for making sure that your students get the education that they need. And so we want to do this quickly and cheaply. So I'm not saying go out and buy yourself a $1,000 digital camera, for example. So we've got the tripod. For better sound, for the best sound, you might want to consider bringing on not just using the phone or using the audio from your digital camera, but having your phone with you and plugging in something called a lavalier mic, or you can see it's a little microphone like here. Oftentimes if you're watching a talk show or something like that, you'll see that they've got these little mics that are clipped to their lapels just like that. And the reason you do that is that it has the microphone right up here close to your mouth. So any background noise from the room, from the furnace, for example, anything like that, it's going to be, you're going to mitigate that. The challenge with having that and putting on the voice recorder on your phone is that you have to sync those to the audio track up to the video track in your editor, which is not always the easiest thing to do. So again, a consideration, but good thing to have if you want to have a little bit better sound. All right, so that's the gear. Hopefully pretty simple, easy to get, pretty cheap. So let's talk about creating the video for doing the class. So you should probably have the camera be 5 to 6 feet away. That gives you like a nice background here, so I'm not gonna put my face all the way up. You can see that I've got some art in the background here to make the classroom, quote unquote, a little bit more visually interesting, since we don't have the benefit of a whiteboard or blackboard. If you do have a whiteboard at home and you're going to be using it, think about how you can frame that into your video as well. And probably the best way to do that is to actually take a dry erase marker or a piece of chalk, whatever it is you're using, and draw yourself just little brackets on the top left, bottom right, and then fit the zoom of your camera into that space so you know exactly where you're standing. So if you're writing on the board, you're not losing anything because it's out of the camera's lens range. Also important with that is that if you can, try to have stuff pre-written on the board, because as much as students are video consumers today, having to watch something happen like that can get really boring. So if you're putting down an entire equation, you're writing, you're going to lose attention. So if you can have stuff pre-written down or have slides of what you're writing down and maybe just use the board to walk through and talk through it at the same time so you can hold their attention, that's an important thing to be able to do, to be able to hold their attention. Also really important, try to keep each video you're recording down to about 15 minutes at a time. 15 minutes or less, actually. Technically speaking, it's really important because YouTube has a 15-minute limit for each upload if you're not considered to be an influencer or a high visibility producer. So you're going to create something, it's 18 minutes long, you try to upload it, and it's just not gonna work. It's gonna reject you. So make sure you do that, and you can split up the videos in your editor as well. So you can talk for a half an hour or 45 minutes and split it into 2 or 3 videos, and that's fine. So then let's talk about editing. Just gonna touch on this really quick, and you can you can watch the videos from my website, which should be posted in the comments on this video, that will explain the editors. Or will walk you through the basics of each of the editors. But basically, talking about what they are and what they do, I'm just going to touch on that really quickly. So on the Mac, you've got iMovie, and it's really easy to just drag the audio and video and any images in right from your desktop, and just drop it in, pull it, plop it in, and it's there. And then you can pull it down into what's called a timeline, and then you can split the clips in your timeline and drop in images or slides, anything like that, to be able to have that in the sequence that you want to have that for your completed video. And then there's a button on the top where you can just click on share, and it will package everything up for you and then have it ready for you to upload to YouTube or Vimeo or whatever you're using it for, even just for sharing it in a private place. For Windows, you actually just use the regular Photos app, and there is a video editor setting on the top. There's a top navigation bar. It says Photos or Video Editor, and so you just go into the Video Editor. You can drop your videos in and your images in very much the same way. Actually, navigating around is a little bit more complex than in iMovie, but because oftentimes if you're trying to split the clip or put some audio in, you need to go into sort of a separate window to be able to work on that editing. But it's still relatively simplistic, easy to package up for uploading, and then you're done for the day, and you can move on to the next class. So let's talk about bringing all of this together, because you've got a video, maybe you've done an audio podcast, and actually let's talk about audio for a moment as well, because you can just use the built-in the built-in voice memo to your iPhone, or you can download any of a million for Android and just record your lessons into the phone, maybe using the microphone or just holding up really close to avoid the background noise. But either way, you can have that audio available as well. I recommend it a little bit less, because students aren't getting that visual effect, and especially if you need to be doing some showing as opposed to just telling, they're not getting that same effect. But if you are doing a post-class question and answer period, then maybe audio is the right way to go, because you don't need to have that video unless you are trying to show specific materials to the student. And maybe you do that, you mix it up a little bit, you do that on a day-by-day basis, just change things up a little bit. And actually, before I talk about bringing it all together, as well as I do want to talk about using PowerPoint to record your daily lectures as well. So it is possible within PowerPoint. There are settings in there, I believe, under the slideshow menu, to actually record every single slide and then package it up into its own single video. This can be really helpful when you're working on the fly, as well as just to be able to talk to the slides that you've created. The downside, it really is that you're not having that same face-to-face engagement, even though it really is kind of a one-way stream. You're not having that same engagement with your students. They're not seeing you. They've gotten used to you in the classroom. They know what you look like. This is a time where students need some consistency, something that for them is, just is recognizable, that makes them feel comfortable. So being able to see their teacher's face, their professor's face, is actually really important psychologically. It's really helpful for them. So if you need it in a pinch, I'd say use the PowerPoint recording as a method, but otherwise try to be in front of the camera as much as you can. So now we're going to go talk about bringing it all together. Most colleges have something called a learning management system, which allows students to submit assignments. It allows them to have some discussion groups. Oftentimes high schools and middle schools won't have this. So first I'm going to talk about ways that you can bring it together through the learning management system, and then I'm going to talk about alternate methods if you don't have one of these available to you. So I'm recognizing that not everybody's got this access, and so we want to make sure that everybody can do this and get your classes up online and the students being able to interact as well as have all of the work that they need to do in a single place. So for the learning management system method, I like to work in modules, so on like basically a per class module. And the learning management system that I use at my college is called Canvas. There are others out there. I believe D2L is one that schools up here in Alberta use. And basically the idea is that you have available to you pages, so you can post in embed links of videos, for example. You can post in links to slide decks. You can post in anything you're writing, messages to students, anything like that on a page. And basically what I have done with that is create a module for that day's class. I create a page for that day's lectures that's got my videos, it's got the slide deck, it's got any other notes that the students might need in order to find other resources. And I put my own videos that I've recorded in, as well as like TED Talks that are related to the subject, for example. Or because it's a digital communications course and it really is about helping to get my students job ready, I post industry videos in there as well, so they can see that it's not just me talking at them, but they might get some like funny animations or other cool stuff that really breaks up the monotony of a single person lecturing. And that makes up my day's assignments, that day or that day's lectures. I also create another page that's got, and it's actually not a page, it's actually listed as an assignment that is gradable. And so I can put that assignment in there. The students see everything they need, all the information, and then I assign a point value to it for when they assign it, or for when they complete it and turn it in, and they're able to turn it in through the learning management system. I have any assignments that I have for the next day. That includes readings, videos to watch, any sort of stuff like that for them to get prepped. So when we have the next day's class, they're ready, and they've done some of the pre-work for that. And then to make sure that they're actually paying attention, I've got two methods for that. One is there's something called discussions, and basically I have them submit in writing, or if they want to do audio or video, they're able to do that, although it's very, very seldom that they participate that way. But I ask them to talk about what they've read, to share their opinions. And one of the really, really interesting things actually that I've not found in a live classroom, and I've gotten confirmation about this from students as well, is that when they're in a written discussion group and they don't have to be in front of their fellow students, they feel less of a sense of embarrassment about sharing their opinions, which I can understand the inhibitions in the classroom, but it's really great because I really get to see a lot more about what my students are thinking, and they really are able to participate in a much more meaningful way. And these discussion groups are open not just between the student and me, but it's open to the entire class. So every single kid in the class, they could be adults, every single student in the class is able to participate. They're able to riff off of each other, respond to one another, and it does make for a vibrant, though silent, classroom experience for them. So I find that it's really important to have that in each one of my class days. And then if I'm doing specific readings, I can also create a quiz and just place it in that day's module. And then once that module is done, I can close it up and then move on to the next day, and the students will know exactly what they need to do in sequence and have their assignments in front of them, able to turn in really easily. So if you don't have a learning management system, which of course is an issue for many of you, I actually recommend finding like a free blog system. So Blogger, which is a part of the Google universe, is free. There's WordPress, which used to be free, but isn't anymore, unfortunately. That I used to suggest as a really great way to participate. And you can do the same sort of thing that I was talking about with the learning management system, but everything is just kind of glommed into one single post, for example. So I would say do one blog post per day. And these are actually, the blogs are really easy to set up. You just put your name in, create the name of your page, and hit start, and then you can just start adding your blog posts. It's really, really simple and a great way to work if you need to. So you can have your blog post, and in your blog post you can ask for discussions on the readings, which would fall into the comments section. You can paste in, or you can embed in the videos that you've uploaded to YouTube or Vimeo or whatever video site you're using, and say, watch in this specific order, and then you can have them actually comment on, what did you think of the videos? What did you think? What questions do you have? And you can create a question and answer session in there using your comments section. And then from that, you can create a second blog post for the day that can sort of be your response on audio or video that helps the students get that response they need. So if you're using the blog sort of method, it's important that you pay close attention to the Q&A and to the comments to make sure that A, you're getting the participation you need, B, that the students are reaching you, and C, that because this is not necessarily a closed environment, that you're not getting comments or participation from people who are not in your class, because you could end up with trolls, which you really don't want. And one of the things about uploading your videos actually to YouTube in particular is that there are 3 settings that you can have. So there's public, which means that as soon as you upload your video, it's available to the entire world. So, maybe that's okay with you, that's fine. There is unlisted, which means that it's up and available to the rest of the world, but if they're searching for it, they're not going to find it. They need to have the link. And third is private, which means that it's not going to be findable. Only people that you send the link to and perhaps have a password for are available and to watch it. And it's otherwise just not accessible unless the people have a way to get in and be able to see it with that link and perhaps be logged in as well. So my recommendation is that you have it as unlisted, so you don't have to deal with the login and the all that extra privacy stuff, but it's private enough that somebody who you don't want to see it, or maybe you don't want to get involved in commenting on the videos or anything like that, isn't going to participate. And that's pretty much it for bringing that all together. You can make sure that you have these every single day and you're creating a consistent schedule. And the last thing really to close this up, because we're at the half an hour, is because we're in a strange time, and even though as a teacher, you're probably used to creating your own curriculum and moving along on your schedule based on whatever your school's requirements are, that maybe you work with colleagues inside your school or at other schools that have similar curricula to yours to be able to almost tag team. So maybe you're working on a video one day, and then this colleague is working on the next day's version, and you're kind of going in a round robin, and that way you sort of break up the monotony of just having you doing the class, and you can sort of keep from duplicating efforts, especially if you've got 3 teachers creating 3 different videos of the same different thing. So maybe consider how can you share all of the responsibilities and then still have all of the assignments that you need your students to do, and you can work on those as well. So that's pretty much it. I don't see that I have any questions in the comments section right now, but I really appreciate your time for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the show. And thank you. And please visit the website if you're a teacher and you want to see a more complete set of instructions on how you can get started with teaching to a remote class. Thank you very much.